Well, hello, boys and girls. It's when I get a clock. I'm Perla Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom on the Perla Wisdom Show. With Payton on the radio, who is here right now. See how
Ayo.
look at how dapper he looks. Very dapper. I just like to use the word dapper.
We are going
on a trip today to last night's games and tomorrow's games. We're going to look at some of the things that happened, such as Rutherford stepping down with the Pittsburgh Penguins and what that means for them. Vancouver's venture in the first period, probably. And the Nashville Chicago game.
Yeah, and you're still getting that echo weird enough too.
I still get an echo, am I? Okay. Bad.
Do you have another another audio source that might not be muted? Because remember last time we had that other source that wasn't muted. Maybe that's why.
There, try that.
Hang on. That sounds good, I think.
Are we good to go? Right on.
I'm still kind of hearing a little bit of an echo.
A little bit of an echo.
I think so. Let me just continue to listen.
Are you loud enough?
I think I'm loud enough. They could definitely hear me for sure.
If I go in my settings...
No, I think that sounds good. I think we figured it out.
Perfect. Okay, good. I'll keep it like this forever. All right, so let's go. We don't have anybody on yet, right? Hello? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good.
All right.
Go. Perfect.
I'll edit this. What are we at? What are we at right now? We're at 2:32. 2:32. All right, hello, boys and girls. It's when we feel 8 o'clock. I'm Perla Wisdom, and you're listening to my NHL Pearls of Wisdom on the Perla Wisdom Show, which we do live daily at 12-ish to 2-ish Eastern time, and Mountain time, if you want to look at it that way. No, it's 2 to 4 Eastern, 12 to 2, it's something like that. Mountain time. And so we're at it right now. We are going to be looking at last night's games. We're going to be talking about Rutherford and his stepping down with the Pittsburgh Penguins and how that's going to affect them in their future. And we'll be getting into a look ahead for tomorrow's games, and just some fancy talk about how things have been going so far for all the teams. It's been some surprises. There's been some issues. Vancouver Canucks fans, are being Vancouver Canucks fans out there.
They certainly are, man. They're analyzing Sutter and Eriksson, comparing it to Eriksson and Markstrom, and being all upset with betting on the dumb contracts when we knew that since the day they were signed, they were bad contracts. It reminds me of the days of when the Oilers had Milan Lucic, and we always compared Lucic to Taylor Hall because they had identical contracts. We're like, we could have had this guy, but now we have this tank.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing the exact same thing. Be patient, though.
Yeah.
It's early.
I mean, he has made some mistakes, but he's also made some pretty good moves as well. I haven't minded Benning. He seems to have kind of learned as he went. The Sutter contract wasn't that great.
But the only reason why they got Sutter at the time was because he was going to be a third-line centerman for the Vancouver Canucks when they were trying to build a team there in Vancouver, and he just never really panned out. He got a hat trick the other night in that demolition derby against the Ottawa Senators when they won 7-1. So Brandon Sutter is bringing some offensive stuff there for the Vancouver Canucks.
Yeah, for sure. See now, okay, open in browser. See, it tells me I got to open in browser to talk to Elliot here. Why I don't know.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, that's weird, right?
I mean, you
Uh,
could pause your live stream, and then you could just type in the chat.
that's is that what I'm doing right now? Pausing the
If you,
live stream.
yeah, if you just jump into your live stream and then you just pause it, you could just type whatever in the stream.
Yeah, but though the thing is that over on YouTube on the live stream it says I'm not connected. So,
Hmm.
like the usual, technology and Perlo do not mix. But anyways, let's get into our games for tomorrow. I'm sorry, Elliot. I'll have to talk to you here. Those are your winners. Okay, what has he got? He's got Islanders ML, Vegas ML, Dallas ML, Boston ML. Uh, those seem pretty good. I can't tell you what they all are because some of them are paid picks, but should be good. My pearls, if you will. Okay, Elliot, thanks. Can you see the chat? Can you see Elliot in the chat, Payton?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm seeing him in the chat. There.
Elliot's been on my live for a long time now. He's a pretty cool guy. This is Payton on the radio, Elliot. Get over there and subscribe to him right now. Okay, well, after you're done for the full 2 hours here, then go over and subscribe to him. Okay, we are going to go now to the games for last night and what happened last night. We'll start with the Predators game since it was kind of uneventful.
Shout out to Luckinen, no.
Yeah,
My lord.
Lankinen was all aflutter last night for sure, no doubt about it. Now,
He really is, man. Like, he's surprising. I never even knew who this kid was up until this year, and he's out here making 41 saves against the Nashville Predators. Now, the Nashville Predators don't have a lot of goal scorers, but I mean, my lord, Forsberg had 5 shots on net, who is a crazy lethal scorer, and same with Arvidsson. And Lankinen was robbing every single one of them. And that Chicago Blackhawks defense is definitely not the strongest right now. And my lord, he is ever carrying that Chicago team right now.
yeah, he sure is. Well, I gotta give Stan Bowman credit. He said when they traded Crawford, they were very high on Lankinen, and they believed he was going to be a number one for them, and all of that. And I didn't know much about him, so I didn't really talk much. I didn't really say much about it because I have a lot of people. I don't know why a lot of people are not a fan of Stan Bowman. I think you just have to see the inner workings of what he was doing with this team, and to realize that he's doing actually some pretty good things for the Blackhawks. He kind of rebuilt them in a way where a lot of the kids that were coming in had an opportunity to feed off of the Taves and.
I think the only reason why a lot of people don't like Stan Bowman was because Bowman's one of those GMs where he was trying to keep the team alive, kind of like what Ken Holland was sort of doing with the team with Detroit when he was there. He was trying to keep the team alive, and of course Bowman did a better job of not handing out ridiculous contracts to players, but of course Seabrook is one of the worst contracts out there. But picking up Andrew Shaw and of course trading away Pinar when he still had a couple more years in his contract, and I think that's the reason why a lot of people hate Bowman. I don't think he's doing a bad job with this rebuild, though. I think he has a lot of good prospects that are coming up the pipeline, like Boquist and Budin and Mitchell for that back end. Plus, they have a lot of good veterans back there as well with DeHaan, Zadora, Murphy, and Keith. So you don't have to play those younger guys tons of minutes when you know your team is probably not going to be the best team in the world. And even their offense, like that Pius Suter guy, like he's came out of nowhere and he's done pretty damn well for the Chicago Blackhawks in the first couple games of the season as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Pius Suter. I don't think he's going to continue with that offense, but you never know. I mean, he wasn't super offensive in, I think it was the Swedish league. He was okay. Like, he was close to a point-a-game guy, but, I mean, he didn't, like, take the world by storm or anything there. So I think he's going to be okay. I just, like, I understand what he's trying to do, and you got to probably take into consideration what ownership might be trying to say. Ownership never wants to do that full rebuild, right?
Mm-hmm. Never.
Yeah. So, I mean, as a general manager, you're trying to keep competitive while doing a rebuild at the same time. It's hard to balance it all out, and but they kept quiet about this rebuild thing for a while because you don't want to tell Taves and Keith and all those guys that we are rebuilding, because all they hear is we're not going to win a cup, and then they're going to not be what you want them to be for their younger players. You want them to think that we're winning a cup this year, to show the younger players what it means to win a cup this year. You know what I mean? So it's deceptive, but almost necessitates deception.
You know what? Like this, I gotta say, with the way that the Chicago Blackhawks are playing right now, of course they're scoring a lot of goals. They're not really keeping the puck out of the net. Right now they're second in the division, but we really won't count on that right now because of the fact that Dallas and Florida haven't played a lot of games, and same with Tampa, and especially with how those three teams are playing, most likely Chicago will drop out of that playoff spot and drop near the end there. But honestly, if you think about it, if they didn't have the injuries like they had this year for Chicago, if they didn't lose Kirby Dack the way that they lost him there in the World Juniors, now DeBrincat's out for a little bit as well, Nylander. There's just been a lot of bad luck for Chicago over these past little bits, and I mean, sooner or later it was going to happen to them. Sooner or later they were just going to hit that bad luck spot. I mean, Chicago for years were gifted so many good players and so many good years, and this team really became that dynasty. And if Lehkonen could continue to improve for the team, but I mean he's going to need a backup. Malcolm Subban and Colin Delia, they have not been doing that great as kind of like, well, they were looking at Subban and Delia to be their starting goalies, kind of be like their 1A, 1B, but that has not really turned out to be anything, and Malcolm Subban has just been has not been very good. His numbers have been kind of poor, but I don't see Chicago being a good team, but I could see them taking some massive steps this season as development-wise for DeBrincat and Kubalik. Kind of shows these younger players how it feels to lose a lot of games, and then once you start winning a lot of games later on throughout your careers, it will be more of a blessing, right? We've seen it from players like Jordan Binnington, where you win so early in your career. Same with Matt Murray, and then you kind of have those early career or like later on career struggles. So with this, you kind of see those early on struggles, and then you could start becoming a better player over time.
Yeah, they definitely could use. I mean, especially with this draft coming up, there's a lot of good defensemen in this draft.
Lots.
And they definitely could use that there. They don't have many. They got Mitchell and Boquist, I think, and
Buden. Buden's pretty good too. He was a first round pick there in 2018.
Buden.
Nicholas
Bowden.
He's a Canadian.
Bowden. Yeah. He looks like he's going to be okay. But and all of them look like they're going to be good, but they could really use that for sure. Number one guy,
like an Owen Power, Brian Clark type of player that can really change up your club. Like, I mean, I don't know if Chicago will be that low unless like they do like continue to do bad and they get near where Detroit is. They could totally have that. And I mean, there's so many defensemen out there. I mean, you got Owen Power, you got Brian Clark, Edmondson is there as well. You've got a lot of strong defensemen that you can go after. And I mean, Owen Power would be a blessing for the Chicago Blackhawks right now. Huge guy, good two-way defenseman, and he would be a difference maker for the Chicago Blackhawks if they were able to get him on the team.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, I don't know what Power is going to turn into. I've heard a lot of different stuff about him. He's big. He's very big. He looks like he's going to be... I mean, it's hard to tell with those really big guys in junior because you can't get away with some of the stuff you do in junior as you do here. Your numbers are usually a little better because you're able to have your size gives you more room in junior than you will in the NHL. But for a guy who can skate like him and he's 6'5", at the very least he's he's going to be a player of some kind in the NHL more than likely. Is he going to be a number one? Or I don't know, but
he's popping off in Michigan right now. He has 12 points in 16 games right now with 10 assists. And I mean the plus minus, of course, that stat's horrible, but he has a plus and minus of 7 right now.
Yeah.
He's looking good. You never know. Maybe he won't turn out to be what he's expected to. I mean, we've seen that before, right? Nick Ritchie, big player, top 10, expected to be a really good power forward, really never turned out to be that type of player. But a lot of people are highly talking about this guy and think big things of Owen Power. But even if you don't go for an Owen Power, I mean, you still got multiple players that you could take a look at and see, like, that could be really good for your team. So if Chicago's going to lose this year, this is a pretty good year for them to lose and get a pretty solid pick. But the biggest issue is with this year, with old Corona and stuff like that, of course, you're not going to be seeing these prospects play a lot of hockey, and your scouts are not going to be able to go in person and be able to watch that player. They're only going to be able to really see it on TV, which you're not able to see that full game of how he skates and how he back checks or anything like that. You're only really able to see what's on TV. So it's going to be a very tough year for scouts. I feel bad if you're a scout this year and you're trying to, I guess, rebuild your team this year, because it's going to be a very tough year to scout and get to know those types of players out there.
Yeah, I think that's why they also took this year to check out the Bodans and the Mitchell, and they got Carlson. I think he's from Columbus, isn't he? He was originally a Columbus prospect. He's an older prospect of Lucas Carlson. He's 23, yeah. Or was it Nashville? What? No, it doesn't come up on here. But they want to see what they got already in their lineup, already in their prospect pool, and they're using this year to do that, maybe even next year. And next year, the draft is even crazier.
Yeah, Shane Wright, Brad Lambert.
Yeah.
You got like some huge USA guys as well. I mean,
yeah, next year's
next 2
Morozov, a Russian kid that's just going off too. Yeah,
like next year, if you want like a franchise centerman, next year is definitely the year that you would want to bail for Shane Wright or Brad Lambert, because I mean, even if you finish up in the top 5, you're gonna get I think this draft, the next year's draft, is gonna feel like the 2015 draft. The 2015 draft where it was like McDavid, Eichel, or was that? 2015. Where you had Eichel, you had a bunch of top 5 guys that were franchise-changing forwards for a lot of teams. I think you might see that with not this year's draft. I mean, this year's draft will be changing for defense. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of young franchise-changing defense. And, I mean, we even forgot to bring up Luke Hughes, who will be in this draft as well.
Yeah.
Great player. And if he turns out to be like what Quinn Hughes and what his brothers have turned out to be, he's going to be a stud. He's already performing really well down there in the USA developmental program. So I mean, I don't know if he's going to be going and playing in NCAA for a little bit, or if he's going to jump right into the NHL. We'll have to see on that. But honestly, really, really good looking player in him as well. So Chicago has a lot to be looking forward to with this upcoming draft, and the year after that as well, if they do decide to kind of go for that full rebuild instead of like a quick retool.
Yeah, I think that's what they're kind of going for, and they picked these two this time just because it worked out that way. Like Crawford was going to be, his contract was up, so they could give Lankinen a look, and they did some good drafting. They got Kirby Dach. He probably is their franchise #1 center down the road, I would think. Although
I would think so.
Yeah. So it wouldn't hurt to have another one. It never does. But they have, DeBrincat, Kubalik. It's not like the cupboard's bare there. So they've done a really good job of transitioning. So it's not going to hurt as bad as it could have been if they got rid of everybody all at one time. Now the question's going to be, do you trade Kane? You know,
That's gonna be a tough one. I mean, 32 years old. A rebuild usually takes about 3-4 years, maybe even 5 years, depending on your prospects. And I mean, Chicago already has a good cabinet full of prospects, so that's the positive thing with this one, is that they do got some really good prospects, and they only really need two years worth of prospects, right? You already have, I think, in my mind, I think Adam Bockwist could be a top 2 defenseman for that Chicago Blackhawks team in the future. So you pick up maybe Owen Power, Luke Hughes in this next draft. That could be another defenseman that you add to that team. You already have a pretty solid offensive core with Dak and DeBrincat, and if Strome turns out to be the player that he actually should turn out to be, the Chicago team could be a very deadly team in the next 1 to 2 years. So if you keep Kane, I don't think it would be a bad idea just to keep Kane, because his contract's going to expire here soon. You could get him to a cheaper deal, and he could possibly stay in Chicago. Now, what happens with Taves? I don't know his what happened really with him and his health, taking this year off, if he'll be back next year. But it's all dependent on how Kane's feeling. If Kane wants to come back after his contract expires, if he feels like this team can take another run, will be the dependent on that.
yeah, that's true too. It will depend on Kane. Well, I think he's got an NTC, but
Well,
yeah,
once his contract expires, because I think it's only like 2 years left, I think, on his contract now.
yeah.
Oh, Madison Bowie went to Chicago. Huh. And they also just picked up Bowie.
Oh,
Signed him to
Chicago.
a 2 year.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's been waiting to see. He can't put it together, that kid. Washington, Detroit. I mean, but I'm surprised somebody like Pittsburgh, who doesn't have any defensemen left, which we'll talk about in it, didn't scoop them up real quick. But yeah, I'm on the fence about that. It really depends on whether they think they can do a 2-year rebuild or not. If they think they can do a 2-year rebuild really quick, and bring in some guys, and I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure if that's the best play. It's really on the edge of what they should do here. Really pushed it to the edge. I'm sure they have their own plan, but my inkling is I would be trading Kane. I think. I don't know, because Kane's going to be okay around 37 years old. I think. He's still going to have a lot to
Well,
offer.
He's still producing the numbers. The problem with his Kane is his defense numbers, and that's the only thing that's like terrible. Like, he's probably one of the worst defensive forwards in the entire NHL. His analytics look terrible, but his offensive numbers are absolutely insane, and I think he could continue that. And the way that he's been continuing this year, even without a team that doesn't have a lot of offensive power, especially with DeBrincat out of the lineup now, I think Kane could still produce until he's 40 years old. Now, I think maybe Kane will take a look at when his contract's done here in 3 years. I think he'll look at it as 35 years old and say, I want to go to a playoff team. I don't want to be here trying to teach these younger kids how to play hockey and to kind of bring them that experience. I think Kane might jump the board and jump the ship and go to some other team and maybe win a cup with some other team. I think that's what Kane might do, and we might see that trend in the NHL here quick, right? We finally seen like a big blockbuster between Columbus and Winnipeg, which we have not seen in a long time, and we've been seeing this slow trend of these big free agent names dropping into the free agency, going to teams that they like to go and play for, and doing it in that kind of way. And I think you might see that a little bit more, especially with the last kind of 2 free agencies, with John Tavares dropping the free agency, and of course Taylor Hall and Pietrangelo dropping in just a while ago too. So you might see Kane drop into the free agency and being a big headline for 3 years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, he might, but you mentioned like his offense makes up for his defense, but as he gets older, that's probably not going to be the case, right?
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that you might not get better value than now for Kane.
I think so. I think if you were to trade him now would probably be the best time.
Especially for a team out there that's looking to win a cup right away. A guy who's won 3 cups,
But the biggest problem is the salary cap, 10.5 AAV that Kane is carrying, and Kane has a no movement clause, so it would be all dependent on how if Kane wants to stay in Chicago. Most likely, he probably wouldn't mind dipping out of Chicago, but it would have to go to a team that is able to fit him into the team, and is Chicago willing to retain the salary to trade him away.
Yeah, well, they might have to retain, but they could bring bodies back. It's not like they couldn't bring bodies back. So I think I think there would definitely be a market out there for them. They would find a way I believe they would find a way to make that work, get some picks and stuff, and then move on. I'm leaning that it's probably a good idea to trade them, and you wouldn't have to do so and then completely blow up your team and be not competitive at all. They could still be very competitive and very quickly. That's just my lean on that. But I had to think about that quite a bit, because it's Kane could end up biting you, because he's the kind of guy that's still very youthful for his age, and he could be still putting up huge numbers at 37, and you think, oh geez, if we would have kept him, we could have had all those players and him too. But it's definitely a close call. So Nashville now gets the win last night, but they have not looked convincing at all this year, have they?
No, they have not. They're not able to score goals. They're really not able to play defense. Saros has been a big guy for the team. Rene has been He's been meh, and their team has not been producing. Duchesne, the guy that they paid $8 million, only has 3 points in 7 games with a -2. Not just that, Johansson only has 2 points this year. You have a lot of your big-name players not performing, and Luke Kunin as well, the guy that you were kind of expecting to be a big goal scorer, is not producing. I mean, at least you get Granlund. Forsberg's not doing too bad, but this is a type of team where it's defense first, and they're not as strong as what they used to be. They definitely are a bit weaker defensively. They're just overall, they're getting weaker as the years go by. And their new coach there, John Haynes, I didn't think he was going to be a good fit for Nashville when they picked him up. I didn't think it was the greatest idea. He struggled there in New Jersey, and I thought he was not going to be a fit when he came to Nashville. And he worked out a little bit last year, but now this year, once again, they're just not able to get their wheels turning and not able to play as well as what they are expected to, especially from their big name players, and they need those guys to play a lot better. But that's the problem as well, going out there in free agency and paying like a guy like Matt Duchene, who, I'm sorry, but Matt Duchene over his career has been some years he is crazy good. Some years he just doesn't give it his all. And it seems like this year he's just not giving it his all.
Yeah.
Is what it seems like.
Well, what happened there in Colorado is kind of a red flag, right? Yeah, Colorado has a super bad year, and he's like, well, I want to be a cup contender. And then
I still remember the one game Patrick Roy got really mad at Matt Duchene because they were ripping some team up, and Matt Duchene celebrated like he just scored the game-winning goal when they were winning 7-0, and Patrick Wall was like, you don't need to do that. Matt Duchene was just hammering into Matt Duchene, and I don't know what's going on with Matt Duchene. I feel like he definitely needs to get that competitiveness going, but I feel like he's been having that problem since Colorado. He's just he seems to not want to. He could drive to play, but he feels like he doesn't try hard enough. It's almost like Danny Heatley 2.0.
Yeah, except he's a center. There definitely seems to be character issues there in Nashville. There's no doubt about that. And Poyle, I don't know if he's just too far on the analytics side or what, but I think
he's just trying to salvage this team. I think that's what he's really trying to do.
He brings in really strange moves, Well,
you're paying Matt Duchene and Ryan Johansson both $8 million, and I'm sorry, but they're not number one centermen. Ryan Johansson when he was developing, he kind of looked like he could have been a number one centerman, but he was far from it, and he never really turned into the guy that they were dreaming about there in Nashville. So they pay another $8 million to Matt Duchene, and now they're both paying these guys $8 million for a pretty long time. I mean, Matt Duchene's going to be paid $8 million all the way until he's 36, and if he's already not producing now, what will happen once he hits 35? Like, it's a scary time there in Nashville for the team that they had, and what's to come. Ryan Johansson, I remember when this guy was like given 71 points there for Columbus, and now he's only given 2 points for this team now in Nashville. They need their centermans to produce a lot more, because that's a big thing. Like, if you don't have your centermans producing, you're not gonna do as great as you want.
Yeah. I had when they made that trade for Seth Jones. At the time when I did videos back then, I was a little more dramatic than I am now, but I wasn't far off. I said they just ruined their franchise for the next 10 years, is what I said.
I think so. Well, I mean, Seth Jones hasn't turned out to be a very good player either, but...
What do you mean? Seth Jones in Columbus?
Well, Seth Jones, he's good. His analytics don't look as great as, like, for example, you look at Ryan Johansson. Ryan Johansson's analytics is not as bad as compared to Seth Jones. Seth Jones is good. He's a good defenseman, but his analytics are definitely not the best-looking analytics in the world. Yeah, I'll pop them up here quickly, and I'll...
That is the one time you have surprised me. But I thought, well, anyways.
Jones last year, he had a 37% defense and a 34% in offense. His goals for is pretty low. His goals against is around 50%, but still not the greatest compared to like top level defensemen. And his PK was good. He has 94% on his PK and 52% on his power play. He's not the greatest. And then if you were to take a look at Ryan Johansson, on the other hand, he's about the same. He's only able to really do all he's really good for is point producing. He gives you some goals for. He's terrible at defense. But at the time of the trade, I think Johansson was a bit better analytically than Seth Jones at the time. But Seth Jones, I think the reason why Seth Jones does so well is Zach Werenski.
Zach Werenski is a beast, Jeff.
His offensive numbers are great. His defensive numbers are meh, but his offensive numbers and the Tortorella coaching way saves those two guys immensely. The way that Tortorella coaches those two guys. But their analytics definitely don't look as great as what people think they are.
You know, it's funny that you would say that. I think that Tortorella's coaching style actually doesn't do well for analytics. I hate to say it, but it's true. He kind of does things in a way that we'll catch up to it someday. I think the analytics are going to have to catch up to what he does, because he plays a style. He takes. How do I explain it? They're going to get outshot a lot. Columbus gets outshot a lot. They play more in their zone than they should, but they win all the time. It's weird. It reminds me of Ken Hitchcock, but back in the day with the Dallas Stars.
It's kind of like the Boucher kind of sort of way. Like, those coaches only last for so long because of the fact that the way that they coach is a very like stylistic defensive way. So once teams are able to figure you out and able to figure out that defensive stylistic game, you kind of start doing a little bit worse. And that's what it seems like with Columbus right now. And who knows, maybe Laine will be a big player that changes off that team.
Yeah.
They're in Columbus and maybe brings a little bit more goal scoring. But, I mean, if they're going to continue to play the way that they're playing with Tortorella's way, I don't know if Columbus is going to do good this season. Of course, Tortorella, I'll give Tortorella. Tortorella is a great coach. Won a Stanley Cup there in Tampa Bay. the way that his system works, it seems to work against the analytics, and it's kind of surprising because
Yeah.
nowadays we're in such a time where analytics are such a huge thing, and analytics are looked at as something that's huge right now. And I mean, Zach Werenski and Seth Jones are not doing as great right now for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Both have a lot of minuses and not a lot of points there for Columbus either. Zach Werenski only has 1 point in 7 games this year, which that's definitely not Zach Werenski type player, but it just always seems to work out for Tortorella. But we'll have to see once Line and Roslovich get there. I think that will help the team out with their depth.
Yeah, Roslovich apparently is going to play tonight. So, well, yeah. So
Yeah.
I guess we went on to Columbus from Nashville there, which we'll go into tonight's games here right away. But yeah, Nashville, I think, yeah, they're gonna have to change. They're gonna have to change everything. I don't know what that's gonna look like.
I think Nashville goes for a rebuild.
I think they have no
kinda,
choice.
I mean, yeah, you're 4-3 this year, and that's a pretty positive outlook in that Central Division. But my lord, you got what? Like, if Columbus turns themselves around um, Line and stuff, but you already got Dallas, Florida. Florida's been fantastic to start this year off. Then you also got Tampa Bay, and then you also got Carolina. That's 4 teams right there that are already having some pretty damn good records and just 3 games played in the year. So, as a guy that's seen Nashville a lot over my time, and it's been kind of a low-key cheer for the Nashville Predators, I think you need all-stars. And you take a look at a lot of teams in the NHL, a lot of teams that are doing good in the NHL. Not a lot of teams are able to pull off what Nashville pulled off when they went to the Cup. Like, yeah, they had Roman Josi and they had PK Subban, but they didn't really have any, like, big superstar in their offensive core. And, I mean, we seen it with St. Louis. They were able to pull it off with, like, Tarasenko. I guess he's a big superstar. But a lot of teams have that, like, that one big superstar up in that offense, and Nashville really has never been able to find it. Forsberg has always been kind of there, and then you have Duchesne and Johansson, but they're all just kind of like second tier, second line sort of players that you're going to get out of Johansson and Duchesne. And same with Forsberg. Forsberg's I think Forsberg would be a great first line guy if he's playing alongside of a guy that is an actual good centerman. I think if you give Philip Forsberg an actual good centerman, Forsberg could pot you a good 30 goals a year. Right?
Yeah.
He has before. He's been a great player before where he's put up 30 goals a year when he was given I think when Ryan Johansson was actually a good player and they were actually doing really well there in Nashville. But yeah, they got to get something going there. They just have not been the same team when they made it to the Stanley Cup and they lost. They seem to slowly decline, and Pulley has just been kind of trying to keep the team alive.
I just think they have too many guys that are undescript as far as what you do in a room. Like, Duchesne is not a guy that's committed to the room. I like to call it committed to the room. He's a musical dude, and you're going to have guys like that. I mean, it's okay. Not everybody is going to be rah-rah, all guns ablazing, hockey all the time, guys like that. They're not all going to be like that, but you got to have some. And that they don't. Their leadership isn't that. They don't have those guys.
You have Matt Duchesne playing as your first line centerman.
Yeah.
Like you're having that guy that might have some personality issues in that locker room, that might not be that perfect leader for your team, right? When the team made a playoff run, they had Mike Fisher. They had some really good players, that they had some good leadership guys. And that's the biggest thing, is when you have some real leaders on your team, that's when it makes it a serious cup contender. And like when they made it to the cup, like they had Mike Fisher, who was doing great. They had Neil. They had Roman Josi, right? And you had personalities like a PK Subban. But then you had like a guy like Mike Fisher and Mike Ribeiro, and Craig Smith, and guys to help out with those type of bigger personalities like a PK Subban. But now they don't really have that. They don't have that kind of Mike Fisher They don't PK Subban on that defensive end. They just don't look as good of a team as what they used to, and they're trying to keep things together when I feel like the best thing for them to do, if they do, if continue to play good, they'll probably keep the team alive. But if they start kind of detouring off and they start playing really bad, I think you got to look to maybe trading away a couple players and start that rebuilding process.
Yeah, the problem again is they have underperforming players on
Yeah,
on very big
huge
contracts.
contracts.
So Duchesne,
That's a big problem.
you're probably never going to have more value for Duchesne than you do now, and you don't have much value for Duchesne now. I think
Somehow sacking.
I think the perception of Johansson might get you some return because he's big, he's a center. I think there's a perception out there that you might be able to get something for Johansson. Not too bad,
Maybe
but
you would have to get him to start producing, though. But I mean, if you get him to start producing, then Nashville might start winning games if Johansson's going. Because all Nashville really needs is a good centerman. They got some good defensive prospects back there with Fabro. They got a good defensive core. They just need to get going offensively, and that's just always been a problem there with Nashville. They're never able to get going offensively. Um, and that's always a big thing, like with that Duchesne signing. That's why I always hate going after free agencies and locking them up long term and giving them like a big contract like they did with Matt Duchesne, because you never really know how well he'll fit on the team and how well he'll mesh with the club. And it seems like Matt Duchesne just has not been able to mesh as well as he has done with other teams. It just seems like Matt been that player for Nashville. Like you look at last year, only 22 points in 66 games for the Nashville Predators, and even in the playoffs, only having 2 points in 4 games for the team as well. Where in Columbus, he had 10 points in 10 games when he went into the playoffs and absolutely popped off. So maybe it's just the way that the coach is coaching him in a weird system that maybe Matt Duchesne doesn't like or something. But I don't know. They definitely need to do some changes there in Nashville.
for sure. So, anyways, we spent a lot of time talking about Nashville and Chicago. That was,
Yeah.
and I enjoyed every minute of it. But we got to get to the next game after that. We'll talk about Vancouver and Ottawa. Vancouver, I have a feeling after the first period, Green pretty much lit that room right up, right?
Oh, God, I hope so. 23-7 for shots, and you left your goalie out to dry. I mean, Thatcher Demko was the only reason why the Vancouver Canucks actually stayed in this game. It could have been like 10-0 for the Ottawa Senators in that first period if it wasn't for Thatcher Demko. And we've been hearing a lot of like Vancouver fans a lot of people bashing Thatcher Demko. Even I was, because all the Vancouver fans were saying that Thatcher Demko is going to be a great goalie this year. He's going to carry the Vancouver Canucks, blah, blah, blah. But Thatcher Demko has not really been the guy for the team until tonight. There's been a couple of games for Thatcher Demko where it definitely didn't look too great, but he really kept the team in the game and got him a huge victory where now Vancouver's sitting in a playoff spot for the Vancouver Canucks now, so that's huge for them.
Yeah, I said right from the get-go I wasn't concerned about Vancouver's rough start. They got a young team playing ridiculous.
They also got to play better defense as well. I feel like they're caving in on their goalie a lot when I was watching some of the highlights for the game as well.
Oh, that was the big thing going in if they had injuries, because they had Chatfield and these guys are really not, they haven't had NHL experience, and even at their best they're probably going to be fringe NHLers. That was really their biggest problem going in, is if they have injuries on defense, there could be a problem.
Wow. They're 31st in goals against and first in the NHL for goals for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, oh my God.
They were destroyed.
Yeah,
they're getting destroyed defensively. And that's like, again, I cannot tell what this team's going to be until I see them get rest and play some games after a 7-10. They're just, and talk about that. We were talking about with the Rangers. With Vancouver, they don't really have what you would call that, pillar veteran leadership either. Miller is good, but I mean, nobody ever thought of him as like the pillar that you want to build around as far as a leader is concerned on a team when he was in Tampa Bay and for the New York Rangers, right? So that's really what their veteran leadership is. What except for maybe Edler, and Edler's not what you call that either necessarily. I'm sure he helps out a lot, but they don't have their Stone and Taves or that's what I liked about what was happening with Chicago, is these young guys get to feed off a guy like Taves, or Stone in Vegas. That's what I'm talking about. These heart and soul guys, and Vancouver's heart and soul guys are under 25 years old.
Well, I think you got Beagle and Russell and those types of guys that do give some leadership to the team in some ways. I mean,
yeah,
Roussel's been around the NHL, right? He's been in Dallas. He was a huge player for them. Beagle, he was in Washington there for a bit, didn't he? No, he didn't win a cup with the team. He left right before they won a cup, but he was in Washington for a long time, playing with one of the best all-stars in the NHL, right? I mean, Beagle was there when Ovi was really getting his career going. So, I mean, they do got the leadership, but they definitely don't got like a Taves, Stone where it's like a superstar. But, I mean, if you were looking at JT Miller, a lot of people in Vancouver talk about JT Miller as kind of being that two-way leadership sort of player, kind of like what a Mark Stone sort of is for the team. And there is some players that need to get themselves going, like Pettersson. He only has 4 points in 9 games this year. And a lot of people there in Vancouver, my lord, the people in Vancouver, please, calm. I know. Canadian fans are some of the most adamant fans out there. And as an Oilers fan, I've seen Oilers fans, they be getting a little cranky about us losing games as well. But my lord, when they were losing games, all over my Twitter feed was just Vancouver fans complaining. And yeah, I gotta say, it's not the goaltending that's doing so bad for the Vancouver Canucks. It's their defense. Their defense is getting bombshelled out there. They're falling back in their goalie. When I was watching the highlight there for the Josh Norris goal by Ottawa, they had like four blue Vancouver shirts in front of their net. All of them, all in front of their net. And there was only like 2 or 3 Ottawa Senators guys swinging at the puck, and just 4 guys imploding on Demko. You can't have that. You can't have every one of your line mates go out there after that puck in front of the net. Sometimes you just gotta let your D, let them deal with that puck and try to get it out. But they gotta play a much tighter game defensively, and it does suck that like Chatfield has to play this soon, and especially when he's not ready, with Travis Hamonic being out of the lineup. But yeah, they gotta play a lot better defensively, especially since they're 31st in the NHL for goals against.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're missing assignments. Hughes does not look confident. And this is what I mean by that. I know you've got Roussel and you have these guys, but Roussel and those guys are talking to guys that are going to be superstars like Peterson, and stuff at a level that they can't even understand. I mean, they can help them to a certain point, but it's a little different when you've got, it doesn't even, like a Foligno in Columbus. You know what I mean? He's got enough skill and enough to be able to look at these guys in the face and say, this is what we need to do at this certain situation. Where they have mental breakdowns. They get anxious during games. This is what young players do. And a guy like Foligno is able to calm things down and say, it's okay, man. It's all right. Well, you guys are great players, and we're growing. You don't need to beat yourself up, which is what Hughes and Peterson has been doing the last 7 to 10 games. If you watch that on the ice, you can see it flat on the ice. They're actually beating themselves up, and that's the last thing you want to do as an NHL player. right? As a player, you don't want to be beating yourself up. You got to keep your focus, realize how great you are, and continue moving forward with confidence. And that's what guys like Foligno. I just brought him up because he's not really what is a superstar, but he's the kind of guy that is that leveling ground for players like this. I don't see Miller like that. Miller is up and down, kind of an emotional guy. You know what I mean? I don't see that on their roster, and they could really use that. Sutter, maybe closest that they have.
Yeah, well, I mean, you got Edler as well. If you were to talk about a guy that could be a leadership, because Edler's been back and he was with Sedin, so. But yeah, I do agree. You definitely need more leadership. But the problem was you weren't able to afford it. Like they this year going into this season, like when I was looking at the team, they're gonna have to rely a lot on their younger players. Like, and that's the biggest thing. And as a fan, like seeing the Oilers and stuff like that, you kind of have to be. You got to be patient with these younger teams because they're gonna be going through their ups and downs and. These past two games with the Vancouver Canucks, yeah, they might have been a little sketchy there in the first period, but Vancouver did start stomping back in this game, and they started playing very well to finish the game off. Right, the next period they came out there and they dominated, 20-7 for shots for Vancouver, and in the third period they had 13-8 for shots for Ottawa. Mm-hmm. So Vancouver definitely came back and stomped back, and I think Green definitely gave it to them. And that's what it's all about. Like sometimes, even if you have a bad first period, it's all the matter of how you bounce back. And the Vancouver Canucks did with 3 goals in that period. And Pettersson got one for himself, and that's a confidence booster, especially on the power play. Like a guy like Pettersson right now, he needs to get himself going, and Pettersson seems to be getting himself going right now, and. These are huge confidence booster games, especially against a team like Ottawa. And yeah, it might be a bottom feeder team, but if you're able to score 7-5 goals in the past 2 games and only allowing 1 goal against, that's going to give some confidence for both the goaltending and not just that, the entire squad there for Vancouver. And who are they going to be going up against? Because, oh no, they got another game against Ottawa today.
Yep, they're playing today. Yeah, and they had 3 in a row against Ottawa. That's a good way to build your confidence up after.
And then right after that you're going up against Winnipeg and then Montreal. You got a back-to-back against Montreal after that. Like and then you got Toronto for 3 in a row games and then Calgary. So the time to win for Vancouver's now. Get those 3 big wins out of the way and then gain some momentum going into Winnipeg and Montreal and Toronto.
Yeah, and I do believe they will. I believe in this team. Mm-hmm. I still believe in this team. I know Peterson's going to get it all together there. And one guy that I did mention that I think is kind of what I was just talking about. He's still young, but I think he's almost there already in the way that he can be that Foligno, except he can even, be a Selke candidate. And a leader is Horvat, which is their captain. That Horvat will help turn this team around. He's a great leader for a young guy, and I'm sure he's learning a lot right now. And he's going to be bringing, he'll bring this team around.
He really is. He's leading the team in points right now. So, and to Vancouver fans, be patient, man. Like this team's a young team. Even if they don't do as well, you guys made it to the second round last year and pushed one of the best teams in the NHL in the Vegas Golden Knights to 7 games.
Yep.
So be patient, man. Like you guys have tons of years left on you. You still got, Pettersson and Hughes got the same agent that got Mitch Marner a ton of money. So I guess that's something to worry about there for the Vancouver fans.
Yeah.
Especially if you have to pay Pettersson and Hughes both like $11 million each, then that's something to worry about. But honestly, there's good things to come with this Canadian division. You're going to be seeing a lot of teams having ups and downs, and that's just how it's going to be in this Canadian division. Every team is looking practically the exact same. You have a lot of teams that are either really, Montreal is just the team that's really good at defense and offense right now, and same with Toronto. But there's a lot of teams that are sketchy defense and sketchy on offense at some moments of times too. So every team. I look at this whole Canadian division. I see almost every team is an even level field right now. But Vancouver, just have some confidence in your team, especially after the couple big games that you're going to be having against Ottawa now. You guys will definitely be getting some momentum going into the next couple ones.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We better get into our games for tomorrow. Wow, we got a lot of content in for those games. That's why I love working with you, man. It's freaking. We could seriously talk about one team for 3 hours, no problems whatsoever.
We could talk about one team all day long. And just,
probably,
like,
probably.
What happened? Why did they sign Louis Eriksson? We'll go into Louis Eriksson's career and we'll talk about why they got him. And
well, yeah, we could go on forever. That's why you come in here and listen to this. Fine, this is what we do all day. So we just happen to turn it on live for 2 hours for a certain amount of the day. Okay, let's go into tomorrow's games. The first one that we'll talk about is Pittsburgh versus Buffalo. And hello, NHL News. Welcome to the live. Steve Sterling, you're still there. Awesome. Thanks for coming in again, buddy. Penguins versus the Bruins. And the Penguins also now have Demelin out. Would we like to read down the injury list of the Penguins? Demelin, Rodriguez, Pettersson, Ricola, Matheson. Holy man, right?
Jeez, man.
Yeah.
Oh, my Lord. That's going to be painful for Pittsburgh. Dumoulin injured. For some reason, reference is not giving me all the injuries, but injuries.
I go to Roto World.
Roto World?
Roto World, yeah.
There it is.
Yeah, Roto World's good.
There we go. Yeah, oh my Lord. Dumoulin, Rodriguez, Pettersson, Ricula, Hey, at least Matheson's out of the lineup. That's nice. I mean, not that he's injured. I mean, that's horrible, but at least he's out of the lineup.
Yeah.
He's horrible analytically. I guess, yeah, we could get into talking about Rutherford, too, because so weird. Rutherford leaves the team, I think, yesterday, a couple games into the season. It's so weird, man. Like, some personal reasons with Rutherford. I've been hearing some potential candidates being Chiarelli. Chiarelli would be a great GM for the Pittsburgh Penguins if they're looking for a retool. I think Chiarelli will be great at trading Sidney Crosby 1-for-1 for Adam Larson. I would absolutely love that deal.
What's that?
Yeah.
Who? Sidney Crosby for Adam Larson?
Crosby for Adam Larson 1-for-1.
Yeah. Okay. I'll sign. Just imagine Crosby, McDavid, Draisaitl as your top three centermen. Woo!
Yeah, McDavid number 1, or Draisaitl number 2, and then Crosby as your number 3.
That would be insane. The greatest top three of all time. I even think that beats out the Montreal Canadiens back in the day when they.
Chiarelli would even retain a little bit of Crosby's contract, so Edmonton could do a little bit more.
Yeah, especially at this point, I might take Duchesne for Larson. So.
Oh man, I would take anything for Larson right now.
Pretty much.
I would take pennies for Larson right now. But yeah, it seems like Pittsburgh, they're pretty much demolished for their lineup, especially defense. Like, you're missing Pettersson and Dumoulin. But this has always been a problem with Pittsburgh. Every year it seems like they just lose a bunch of D going into every single year. And I think Adam Larson would be a perfect fit there for their D. They need some D. Yeah, we'll give him a call up. Maybe Kasperi Kapanen, and maybe they'll be open to trade him to the Edmonton. No. But
yeah.
Now you're having to rely on Cody Ceci a lot more now too. He's already playing an average of 18.
Yeah.
That hurts the eyes. 18 minutes of ice time already for Cody Ceci. Oh, Root News report goes for Crosby for Lucic, 1-for-1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, I hope Chiarelli never becomes a GM ever again, just because of how bad he is. But if he does go to Pittsburgh, man, I'm sorry for the Pittsburgh Penguins fans. But yeah, Jari has not been the guy. Pittsburgh right now, 25 goals against. I think they've been good because they've been able to score goals, but I think I might go with Boston Bruins in this game. just because of the fact that Boston Bruins look like a better team right now. They haven't been too bad. They won the last game against Pittsburgh there in a nail biter, but I think Boston will be able to shut it down, especially with how many defensemen that they're missing out right now. I mean, yeah, the Boston Bruins, they don't have Matt Grzelcyk in the lineup either. They're having some injury problems too, but wow, Nick Ritchie is a point per game right now. Wow, I didn't even know.
Yeah, they're playing him on the top line there, and he's doing well. He's doing well. Yeah, he's doing pretty well. Yeah, you're going to be looking at
Nick Ritchie's been talked about being. Sorry, what was that?
You're going to be looking at like Pierre Olivier Joseph playing top like big minutes, and Chad Ruhwedel, and yeah, that's ugly. I don't even think. I think they might go with Casey DeSmith tonight too. Has Jari been confirmed? I don't think it's Jari's fault. You're staring at the back of Cody Ceci for 20 minutes. I'm gonna let a goal or two in too, just out of sadness alone.
I mean, most people are. I mean,
just out of sadness alone.
Oh, they got. So this is their lineups right now. This is what Daily Faceoff has it as: Pierre Oliver Joseph with Chris Letang, John Marino alongside of Cody Ceci, and then Kevin Suzman with Chad Ruhwedel. That's rough. Very, very rough. They have some of their best defensemen, of course, in Dumoulin and Peterson out, and same with Rukula. He's very good as well. And you're having to play CC up on that top four. That pains me to see that. Their offense is about the same. They haven't really lost a lot of people on the offense side, but it's going to be rough. It's going to be rough going up against a team in Boston who has some offense going right now. Marchand's popping off in the last couple games. Patrice Bergeron hasn't been doing too bad. Same with Nick Ritchie. He's been a very surprising player to see. And the defense there in Boston's much better. They've been doing really good this past season there in Boston. Especially a lot of people were kind of like not saying they were going to have the best season, especially their defense. But they've been very, very good defensively, I feel. They're right now 6th in the league for goals against. They definitely need David Pastrnak back in the lineup. I feel like they're really missing him, especially for that goal scoring touch of his. But I think I'm going to pick Boston in this game.
Yeah, I got to lean on Boston. It's just that Bruins will have Halak in, but I don't think it matters.
But Halak's been great.
Yeah, he's been great. And that defense, I can't see Boston not ripping it apart, honestly. I heard Grzelcyk might be back, but maybe not. But
I don't think he's back until Saturday. I know DeBrusk might be back in the lineup for Boston, it said, but I don't think they're going to be getting back Grzelcyk until this weekend. So they're still going to be without him out of the lineup. But, I mean, the Boston's defense, even right now, they've been pretty good even without Grzelcyk in the lineup. And their goaltending's been great there in Boston as well. So look for that to continue to carry that team there.
Yeah. I really think it might be DeSmith, but I really don't think it matters because that defense is just not going to go anywhere until they can get some guys back off of injury. I mean, even when their defense was healthy, it wasn't great. So I can't really see.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I just can't really see them doing much in this game for sure. So we'll go on to the next game then. I didn't even mention about Jim Rutherford. Jim, I know you're watching. I just hope everything's all right because it was apparently an emergency personal thing. And, there's a lot of things going around about, difference of opinion or whatever the case may be. But I heard it was an emergency personal thing. And if that's the case, then I just hope you're all right.
I know. I hate how the people are really taking it out of context and probably saying like, oh, Jimmy Rutherford he left us with a bunch of bad players. No, I know it might have seemed like that, but in this situation during this time and the world that we're in, he stepped out for some emergency issues, like you were saying. don't twist it, people. Don't say it like he left you guys and you got fired or whatever. Just leave it how it is. He left for some personal reasons. Yeah, he might have left you guys with a pretty bad team this year. But man, the guy has won you 2 cups. Like, this guy has legit built your team to the way it was. Yeah, he might have ruined your team this year, might have made it pretty bad defensively, but you guys won back-to-back, and not a lot of teams can say that.
Yep.
So, for Pittsburgh Penguins fans, please just be quiet and stop making rumors out of it, because it really doesn't need to be spiraled out of control right now.
Yeah, the guy won 3 cups. I mean, you can say whatever you want about Jim, but he won 3 cups. And was he a guy that was going to rebuild your team? No. But he was really good at finding players that seemed to work in chemistry-wise and timing for a team. Yeah,
I mean, Kessel and I mean, the guy's made a lot of good deals over his career, and yeah, a lot of people might say he's not done as good now, but I mean, sometimes you lose that magic touch as a GM. Sometimes you're so involved with the team for so many years. Sometimes you do lose touch with the team. But Jimmy, I hope you're doing well, man.
Yeah.
Good luck to you.
Well,
and if you come back next year, then good on you.
He had a mandate to not rebuild, and he's not a real big rebuilding guy. Is he going to leave you with nothing in the cupboard? Absolutely. But he also left you with 2 cups, and you probably wouldn't have had those 2 cups if he would have kept on just keeping the first round picks and, keeping you competitive all the time. I could be wrong about that, but the fact of the matter is you had 2 cups. So that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Rangers versus Sabres. This should be an interesting game. The Sabres, you still don't know what they are yet, right?
They've been some games they like pop off, some games. You know what? When I watch highlights, I've been watching highlights on Twitch.tv, and I love the Buffalo Sabres and the way they pass and the way that they got some certain plays set up and the way that Ralph Kruger has kind of built this team offensively. It's great. But the one problem that we all knew was going to be a big issue was defense.
Yeah.
17th in goals against this year. I mean, they haven't scored very many goals either. 15th in goals for this year. They need to kind of get Taylor Hall and Eichel going a bit more. Even then, they're at a point per game anyways. Also, Dylan Cousins. I've been watching him a bit. He's been a very good player for the Buffalo Sabres. Very low-key guy. Definitely needed him to step in the lineup, especially with how Jeff Skinner's been right now. Only 1 point in 7 games. Everyone told Buffalo that it was going to be a bad contract, but yet they signed him to $9 million. Don't know why, but
it's just we've talked about that on this show. I don't know how many times. Every time Buffalo comes up, you look at Skinner, and it's just, oh my gosh.
Well, like, it's so obvious. It's like it's like a broken bone. It's like hard to not notice. It's just right there. It's popping out. Jeff Skinner's is that sore thumb. 1 point in 7 games. He's supposed to be that goal scorer for your team.
Yeah.
But he has 0 goals.
Yeah.
Nothing for your team. And you even have Kyle Pozo, who you're paying $6 million, scratched right now. He's only played 2 games this season. So, I mean, Tobias Reeder even has more goals than Jeff Skinner. And my lord, this kid played alongside of Leon Draisaitl when he was in Edmonton and didn't score 1 goal.
Yeah.
So where are you at? I mean,
he did do a little better in Calgary, but it's not not a guy that you want as a goal scorer on your team for sure.
But I also think Ralph Kruger has been playing him, Jeff Skinner, I think, lower down in the lineup. I think as well.
Yeah.
With Lazar and Seahan. So if you really want Jeff Skinner to produce, you need to put him alongside of good players. And I'm sorry, but Lazar and Seahan are not going to make Jeff Skinner a goal-scoring guy. I know Ralph Kruger will probably... And, I mean, I love their top 6, but their depth is in shambles. I mean, it almost looks like the Edmonton Oilers' depth last year, with having Cody Eakin as your third-line centerman and Seahan down there as well, and Tobias. I mean, it's definitely not the best depth there in Buffalo, and I think that's where it's going to hurt them a bit is their depth to goal scoring. But if they maybe give like a little bit of a playmaker to play alongside of Jeff Skinner, maybe it would go a bit better. I don't know.
Uh, yeah, well, the problem is a double-edged sword. I understand. I like Ralph Kruger a lot. I think he's a great coach.
I think so too.
I would like us being Oilers fans. I was losing my mind when they like let him go. I was like, what? It's like the best coach we've had in a long time, and he's gone. Like it was crazy. But anyways,
I was even upset when we fired Todd McClellan as well.
yeah, same here. I was very upset with that. It had nothing to do with.
When we get to talking about the Oilers game,
We'll talk about.
Remind me to talk about Tippett and the coaching because that is definitely going to be a thing that we need to definitely go over there with the Oilers.
I'm very disappointed with Tippett, honestly.
Same here. I'm angry.
Yeah, Jeff Skinner. Although I'll just say this, it's a double-edged sword. He's not playing hard enough to play in your top two lines.
That's why they picked up Taylor Hall. They picked up Taylor Hall and said practically to go screw yourself, Skinner. Like,
yeah, and
you
Eric
didn't play good last year.
Eric Stahl was supposed to maybe bring that out of Skinner because they used to know each other in the past and stuff like that. But
even then, they didn't even put Skinner alongside of Stahl, though. Like, right off the start of the season, they said that Skinner was going to be playing, like, third-line time.
Because he came in out of shape. I guarantee you he came into camp completely out of shape. And they know he can't play more than 12 minutes a night in the shape that he's in. So he has no choice but to put him on the fourth line. Like
it was a dumb idea there by Botterill to, I guess, he was trying to speed up the rebuild there in Buffalo, especially since they have Jack Eichel. But I hate when teams do that. Take her slow. Take her slow, man.
But
if
they
you feel
have
like Jeff Skinner won't be that good of a player, then don't sign him.
I think
Skinner.
I think that's an ownership problem, not a Botterill problem, though.
Kugula,
Yeah.
Buffalo's ownership is a gong show there in Buffalo.
Maybe if every time they've changed everything there, and the problem is still there, eventually you got to look and say, okay, I must be the problem. Since Pagula is a horror. Shut up. Just shut up. Do what. Go back to the Oilers. We'll talk about the Oilers here right away because I got a lot. Like there's what happened with.
There's so many games.
Yeah, we'll talk about the Oilers right away, but our owner had to do that. Shut up and give the reins to somebody because we had the same problem. I think, anyways, I believe that. Anyways, as far as the Rangers are concerned, you got to figure this is going to be a high-scoring game with the way their defenses are, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, you look at New York. I mean, David Quinn's been putting D'Angelo and Jack Johnson alongside of each other. So, I mean, if you have that going right now, I think, most likely it will be a high-scoring game. But I think New York has to get themselves going too because I think that youngness. I mean, you look at their entire squad. The only guy that they have as a veteran is Jack Johnson and Smith. That's over 30. Everyone else is under 20 or under 30. I mean. So you got a lot of young guys, and not a lot of your bigger players are producing a lot of offense for your team. Like Spinajad only has 2 points, and I love how Rangers fans are like, Spinajad's a top 10 center in the league. No, no, he's not. He gets hots here and there, but Spinajad, he only has 2 points in one game. Strome is struggling. Trouba's been D'Angelo's been a bombshell out there defensively. Not just that, he's not producing anything for the Rangers. They're getting bombshelled everywhere. I don't have confidence in the New York Rangers winning this game against the Buffalo Sabres. I don't think they will.
I don't either. I don't have confidence in it. Shesterkin's going to have to play a lot better, or you're going to have to basically win it for them because their defense right now, team defense and everything, is putrid for the Rangers, and it's actually surprised me. I thought they'd be better than this. I didn't think they were going to make the playoffs or anything, but I didn't think they're playing like a team that could be in the bottom of the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
they really are.
Yeah, let's go to the next game then, because we're taking a long time for each one. My computer when we have OBS takes forever. Okay, Devils in my Flyers. Interesting game. The Devils got when the heck is Blackwood coming back or somebody, right? Got to keep on rolling with Wedgwood over and over and over again here. Not a recipe. Like he got a shutout, which was amazing, but overall he hasn't looked good. That being said, the Flyers defense is still not looking the greatest. As soon as Myers went out, I don't think I've talked to you about it, but why did they sign, what's his name again? No, my freaking Gustafson again.
When I was talking about it in the off season, I think the way that I thought it was going to work out is like another offensive kind of defenseman for the team, since Gostisbehere hasn't been that like true offensive defenseman for the team. But now you have injuries hitting the team, and you're having to rely on Gusto a lot more than what you do when you have Myers in the lineup, and that's the biggest thing. Like the defense there in Philly is very skeptical, right? You're having to rely a lot on Justin Braun and a lot of your other guys there as well. Like Ivan Provorov, great defenseman, but he's even been making some defensive mistakes there in Philly. But you got to remember that like their defensive core is a very, very young defensive core there in Philly, and it's been like that for a little while now, where they've been relying on Provorov and Gostisbehere to develop and to become better over time, which I do like that idea of having a nice young defensive core developing. But yeah, they've been having to rely a lot on the young Provorov, who's been playing 25 minutes of ice time out there. But they've been doing very good offensively, but they're 24th in the league in goals against. And we've been talking a lot about these teams with the bad goals against, and Philly's been one of them. Carter Hart had a couple bad games, but you can't just blame the goalie for having a couple bad games. You got to look at the defense as well, and it definitely has not been the greatest for Philly. Now, Gustin, he's never been a great defenseman. He's been a pure offensive guy, and maybe they should have went after another strong defensive defenseman, maybe for some depth, instead of going after Gusto. Maybe you could have relied on Gostisbehere maybe jumping back and maybe going back into his form, but we really haven't seen that yet for him either.
Hey, John from Off the Wall is here. The GOAT.
Hey, all.
How you doing, buddy? Gustafson, to say bad defensively, I think is a huge understatement, especially this year. He's been coughing up the puck like nobody's business, man. I don't know. He's one of the few any actual NHL defensemen where you watch him and you can almost see you go like you're not you did unbelievable. You can almost read his blunder like 20 seconds before he actually does it. It's like unbelievable. He's horrible. And when they signed him, I unfortunately I had to do not had to. I enjoy doing. I'm a Philadelphia Flyers fan, so I do some stuff for Flyers Nitty Gritty and all that. And I was like, I think Gustafson's probably only going to be playing 12 to 14 minutes a night by the end of the season. And they were like, really? Do you think they would spend $3 million on a player like that? Well, I don't think I wouldn't have thought that before they did it, but they did.
Gustin's entire career for giveaways and takeaways, he's had 177 giveaways in just 227 games. So that almost means he's far away from a giveaway per game, but that means he's almost there. This year he's already at a giveaway per game. He has 7 giveaways in 6 games, and that's been like a big topic whenever I see a Philly game on my feed. It's always the giveaways that Gustin really goofs stuff up. He turns the puck over, and it seems to have this spiral effect and screws the Flyers really bad. And that's a big thing, right? Like, I mean, you look at the rest of the team; they're not as bad. Not like Gustafson. Gustafson has been turning that puck over so much this season. Yeah, it's been really rough.
Yeah, Braun is just not. I didn't understand that. I don't know. Chuck Fletcher, when he got Hayes, I could say, okay, and then that turned out better than I thought. So
Hmm.
I'll give him that. But besides that move, what has he really done?
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, you really weren't able to do a lot this year with Philly, especially with their cap situation that they had with some pretty expensive players, and same with
I think you
their
could have did
defense.
something better with that cap than give Gustafson $3 million.
But
Uh,
yeah, it's of like maybe you could have went after somebody else, and you totally could have.
it's quite possible that nobody they couldn't get anybody else. It's possible, I suppose, but
Maybe they just because I mean the only sign like you gotta remember you only got Gustin for a year.
yeah, that's the
Like
good
you
news.
really think about it, like there wasn't a lot of defensemen that really took that 1 year that was a great defensive defenseman and that was a great actual analytically looked good defensively, right? Like you guys have to pay Sandheim next year. Not just that, you got to pay Lawton and Raffle next year as well. I mean Raffle, but Lawton's probably gonna have to pay him a decent buck, and also Nolan Patrick is a free agent as well. So you got to pay some guys next year, and same with Carter Hart. He's expiring as well. So signing Gustin for a year, he's only a bet. If he doesn't work out, he doesn't work out. If he
Yeah.
does, then perfect. But so far, he's been the giveaway central.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I guess I reserve judgment a tad to know, because it just seemed like they were like grabbing who they could in fear of not being able to grab anyone. And I think grabbing Gustafson for that team was almost like not grabbing anyone. In fact, it might have been a minus. And a lot of people disagree with me, but it's looking like that was likely the case.
I think the only reason why Gustin was a bad move was because, well, it's a good it's a good and bad move because Gustin can play really good offense. He can give you some really good power play time for you guys, and that's what Gustin could be really good for. But once you start getting injuries and you start losing guys like a Myers and maybe a Braun and like
Yeah,
a Sanheim, and you're gonna have to rely on Gusto a lot more, it's gonna screw over the Flyers more than what they expected.
yeah. The guy I was hoping they would get was Vatanen, but then he hasn't even played yet this year, so I guess that wouldn't have turned out all right either.
But
So
Vatanen would have been the same as Gusto. I mean, Vatanen's a bit better defensively, but he's still in the same caliber.
I
Sammy
would.
Vatanen's
He
the
doesn't give.
greatest.
He doesn't do giveaways like that. I would take him over Gustafson. That I might be analytically a little off there, but not too. I don't think I'm too much off. I would take Vatanen over him any day for the amount of money for $3 million for sure for 1 year. I just Gustafson. The problem is being a player. That's why I'm not totally analytics. Those kind of giveaways that are just complete bonehead like that can just take the energy right out of a team. Where
And Vatanen's the
Vatanen
same.
generally doesn't give giveaways away like that. You
No,
know,
Vatanen has less giveaway numbers than what
yeah,
Gusto has. Like last year in 47 games, he only gave away the puck 24 times compared to Gustin, where let me pop up Gustin's numbers. Um, Gustin last year had where's those numbers at? Last year he had 53
Ooh,
there in
wow.
Chicago, but he was there in Chicago, and that's a big thing.
In
But
Calgary,
Vatanen
maybe.
was in New Jersey. In
Cal-
Calgary, he had 5 giveaways in 7 games.
Ooh, my gosh. Yeah, those kill you, man. They kill you. They really do. And
In the playoffs, 10 games, he had 7 giveaways in
that's hard.
the 10 playoff games there for Calgary.
Yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I think they thought that AV could be the magic elixir, and I find Philadelphia does that a lot. They think that their coach is just so much better than everybody else's and going to be the magic elixir to stop them from a trend that's been going on their whole career, and it's just bad move. Bad. It's just bad player management as far as I'm concerned. Anyways, we'll go to the next. Oh, you are you taking Philly in that game?
Yeah, I'll take Philly in that game.
I'll
I'm
take
pretty confident.
I kind of think Philly's going to. I think the Devils have done well. Hughes. The reason why the Devils have done well so far is Hughes has taken a lot of teams by surprise. How much he's improved this year.
And you can't forget about Ty Smith either.
And Ty Smith.
And their good defense.
Yeah.
New Jersey has been playing a very good game, the Lindy Ruff way. The
Yes.
Lindy Ruff way
Yes.
has been working for the New Jersey Devils, and a lot of people weren't happy by this signing. But hey, we said it.
Yep.
We're on the channel.
We called
said
it. We
that
called
Lindy
it.
Lindy Ruff is going to be a difference maker for this New Jersey Devils team.
Yep.
And it really has.
We did say that for sure, no doubt about it, and he sure has. Okay, let's get to the unbelievably dilapidated Capitals team against the Islanders. I try to do it off the top of my head, but Ovechkin, Wilson. I heard Backstrom might be back in, but Eller, Kuznetsov, Orlov, Samsonov. My gosh, what a! And they're still making it through so far, but they're playing against an Islanders team.
Yeah, they're missing right now Samsonov, Orlov, Ovechkin, and Kuznetsov. They're also missing Wilson, and Eller will also be out of the lineup coming into this game as well. So you're missing a decent amount of players going into this upcoming game. That is rough. But Washington's still been doing good. And Vanisek, we were talking about how kind of worried we were with their goaltending. I actually picked up Vanisek for my fantasy team, and I'm very impressed with Vanisek. I think he's been doing very good with how he's been stepping up here for the Washington Capitals and how well he's been playing. And I think that will continue. But I think the New York Islanders, it's a do-or-die game, I think, for them tonight, especially having that 500 record that they right now have. I think tonight is a must-win for the New York Islanders, especially in regulation, since Washington's already been given so many overtime losses right now. They already have 3 extra points. So I think in this game, I'm going to have to side with the New York Islanders on this one, especially since the Washington Capitals have been playing good, yes, but they are missing a lot of their big players right now, and they've been playing a decent amount of games over the past little bit. So I think the exhaustion will start hitting Washington here soon, especially having Ovi and Kuznetsov and all your big players out of the lineup.
Well, E-Money is on. Evan Sullivan, E-Money. Wilson is back.
Wilson is back?
Yeah, Wilson's going to come back. I just looked it up. I just refreshed my injury report, and he was on the ice with Backstrom and Verana today. So that'll help a lot, and that makes me...
Yeah, I just seen that.
That makes me wonder...
Game time decision.
And we talked about a coach there, just this with the New Jersey, with Lindy Ruff. We also, I think, should bring up how it appears there was question marks on what Laviolette was going to do for this Washington team. It seems like he's doing pretty darn good so far, right?
I've been very impressed with how Washington's been playing the last few. They've been playing a way better game. Defensively, they definitely need to improve. But, I mean, you got a lot of guys out of the lineup right now. But you're 5th in goals for right now. This team has been lighting up the NHL. Even their goaltending, I know a lot of people were worried about their goaltending, but Vanisek has stepped up immensely, winning his past couple games. He's 3-0-2 right now. His record in a .918 save percentage. Vanisek's been huge for the Washington Capitals. But this game's a tough one. I think I'm going to choose New York, though, in this one, just because of the fact that I think New York Islanders are going to have a bounce-back game, and they kind of need to. After losing the last game against Washington, and then also losing the game before that to the New Jersey Devils, you definitely need a big win here for the New York Islanders.
Yeah, they definitely need it. I'm probably leaning the Islanders as well, but I'm really impressed. It would not surprise me if Washington pulls this out. But they played a lot more hockey. They should be getting a little tired, especially with a lot of their younger players that are not used to playing this many minutes. This seems like a place where, and New York is really wanting. I think didn't they have like a horrible game last game? It was one of the worst games I've watched them play. Or was that the one before that? If it was,
but they got shut up by New Jersey.
Yeah, and they just played terrible. I can't remember. Did they play New Jersey after that and win, or was that the last game they played?
Their first game they won against New Jersey, and in the next game they lost against New Jersey 2-0, and that was when Scott Wedgwood was in the net. And then the next game after that they lost to Washington 3-2 against Washington.
Right, and they played actually fairly not bad there, but. Yeah. They're going to want to rebound here. I trust that Trotz will have them ready here. I'm going to lean the Islanders, but I was concerned about the Islanders losing Boychuk and Tays, and it looks like that is legit. I don't know if the Islanders are going to be able to make it this year.
I think so too. Even when I was making my predictions about the Islanders, I felt like this team they lost a lot. I didn't really have that belief like this team is really gonna push for that playoff spot. So yeah, I'm in the same spot. I feel like New York will maybe win this game, but you could even lean towards Washington winning this game as well. You could look at both teams winning this, but yeah, I don't believe in the New York Islanders making it into the playoffs this year. They're in a very tough division right now. They're in the last place of that division right now, or almost near the bottom with the New York Rangers there. But I mean, you got Buffalo, New Jersey's been great. Pittsburgh hasn't been bad. Philly, Boston, Washington. It's a very tough division, and New York needs a win tonight if they're going to be back in that race.
Yep, for sure. I think it's a pretty big win. It's probably their biggest game so far this season. Okay, let's go quickly here. Lightning, Hurricane. Hurricane have not. These are two fairly fresh.
Chevy is back in the lineup as well. He's making his. He's back in. I think. Didn't he say that he was injured? I think I seen something on Twitter.
For the Capitals, you mean? Who?
Or no, for Carolina.
Oh yeah,
Andrei Svetnikov.
Okay, yeah, I imagine they should be all healthy now after that layoff that they've had. So I don't know about this game. The Lightning didn't look good their last game again. Of course, they never look good against Columbus. This their nemesis is the Columbus Blue Jackets. I gotta lean Tampa here. But I mean, I don't know what the Hurricanes are yet. I need to see them play more. I know that they didn't come right out of the box with all cylinders to start with. So I don't know if they're going to here either.
I mean that's going to be the biggest issue with Carolina is they have to kind of get their gears running, right? They faced against Detroit and then of course a game against Nashville, and then that's really it. That's all you've really played, right? You haven't played a lot of games there, and there in Carolina, you face opponent that you got to go up against. So I don't know what Carolina's going to do, but I'm definitely more confident in the Tampa Bay Lightning winning this game against Carolina. So I'm definitely going to be choosing Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I would definitely choose Tampa Bay here. We'll talk more about that game when like tomorrow when we're talking about these games, and we'll see what's going on with those two teams because they're kind of a mystery right now. I think that's the word I'm trying to use. Panthers versus the Blue Jackets. Now, I don't want to. This game ticks me off. I had Blue Jackets ML and the under 5.5. And and yeah, you know what I'm getting at, right? And the Panthers score with 3 seconds left to kill them both. Thanks a lot. So I'm taking the Blue Jackets here just out of spite. I'm angry at the Panthers. I'm angry.
Taking the Panthers.
Okay.
This is their best. This is their best start.
You would. Yeah, go ahead.
This team has been fantastic, and that Verhaeghe, Barkov, Duclair line. Like, I mean, that line has been fantastic for the Florida Panthers, and I think they're going to continue going up against the Columbus Blue Jackets, who have not been the greatest to start this year off. I've been loving Florida. This is surprisingly their best franchise start ever. Like, and that's saying a lot because they've been here since the 90s, and this is their best start is 3-0. That's pretty bad. It's pretty rough as a team. I mean, Vegas is better starts. They've only been in the NHL for 3 years now. I'm going to choose Florida on this one. I've been really impressed with how they've been playing, and I think they're going to continue playing well.
Hornqvist has 5 points.
Yeah.
We talked about it before the season started where we were kind of like, this I don't know if it was you and I or it probably was, and also Pro Joe. Remember Professor Joe Boric? at Sports Fanatic News and SteelFlyers.com, the best all sports network in the land. Go check it out. But we talked about how the addition of Hornqvist and Gudas could very well change the culture of this team. And Verhaeghe. They needed guys.
I was talking very highly about this team when the offseason came in and they got Verhaeghe and they got Duclair and they got Weinberg. I said that these guys are going to have a resurgence. Weinberg so far has looked good. Verhaeghe's performing off his wall. Duclair's been great. Barkov's been great. Their defense, I would have to say, is doing pretty good there in Florida. They've just been overall a really good team.
Yeah, I mean, they said they wanted to change the culture, and they went about and did that. I guess Hoffman and Dadonov are not part of that culture that was going to be successful.
Well, I mean, you look at those guys analytically, Hoffman and Dadonov were not the greatest at playing defense, not just that 5-on-5, which is what Florida really need to improve upon, and they have. They're right now, in the first 3 games, they're already 3rd in goals against this year and 25th for goals for. They're doing really, really good, and they just need to continue. They just need to continue the way that they're playing, and Bobrovsky needs to play a lot better. His numbers are definitely not looking as great.
Still not looking good. That's so scary. Every game that he has another not successful game or great game is another drop in the bucket of stress looking at that $10 million 8-year contract. Oh my gosh, what a disaster. I'm going Columbus just out of spite. That's it. I get you. I want to root for Florida. First of all, I wanted them to be successful. I think it's important for the NHL to have those Florida teams do well and Arizona teams and get that fan base so we can compete with the NBA and NFL and all that. If we're going to, we need those markets to succeed, no doubt about it. So I'm rooting for them in the way that you also root for that underdog team. And I like the fact that Verhaeghe is a great story, right? So I'm rooting for them for those reasons for sure. So let's go to the Flames and the Canadiens. This Flames team seems to be right on point to what we were saying before the season started, right?
Yeah. A lot of people have been highly talking about the Hanifin-Tanev. I think I've seen an analyst say that there's been no goals on the Tanev-Hanifin Tanev that they got set up between those two, I think. So Tanev and Hanifin haven't been too bad, but the fact of the matter is that Valimaki, Nesterov, I was watching the highlights between those two guys in the Toronto game. Every goal that happened on the Calgary game was on their depth. Their depth of the Calgary Flames are really dropping the ball. Nesterov and Valimaki are not playing very well together, and I knew Nesterov was not going to be a very good defenseman. They got him playing 16 minutes of ice time out there, and that's way too much for Nikita Nesterov, who definitely is not the greatest defensively. But they're also relying a lot on Jacob Markstrom right now. Jacob Markstrom has played every single game since start.
Rittich is in tonight.
And I think they're going to get their asses or their butts handed to them against the Calgary Flames or against the Canadiens. I honestly do think that the Flames, they're very good, 2-2-1. But they had a really rough game against the Maple Leafs, and if they continue the way that they're continuing, the Canadiens will whoop them pretty bad, I think, tonight.
Yeah, I mean, they just flew from Calgary to Montreal yesterday, too. They've been playing a lot of games. I watched Calgary against Toronto, and I saw a team that was not much different than last year, except for Giroux's playing better. Or Goudreau, I should say. Goudreau's playing better, but
his shot's back. That's what I can say. I can say his shot's back, but and Tkachuk is ticking people off like he usually does. But it definitely looks like the exact same team as last year, just with some newer people. Their depth just looks as slow as last year. And going up against the Canadiens, like when I was watching the Canadiens against the Oilers, the Canadiens was on top of that puck every time, beating every battle, every speed race. Canadiens were winning. What's going to happen if Conkin and Nami, the third line, that they have there in Montreal is going up against Lucic's third line. What's going to happen then? Is Lucic going to be able to beat out Kotkaniemi for that puck? Is he going to beat him on that speed race? No. Lucic, without a doubt, is going to beat him on that race. And I don't know. I think I'm going to go with the Canadiens on this one. The Canadiens are a faster, more dominant team and better defensively as well. They're looking at your depth for Calgary. Derek Ryan, their big third line guy, 0 points.
Yep. Their offensive depth has been terrible.
Another guy that they were highly talking about. Josh Levio, another guy that all the Calgary Flames fans were talking highly about, 1 point. Dylan Dubé, 2 points in 3 games, not bad. But Lucic, only 2 points in 5. Like, their depth that they need to get going are not going. They're struggling. They're not doing as good. They're looking as exact same as last year.
Yep.
They're going to be carried by Goudreau, Monahan, and Kachuk.
Yep.
And it's not going to be enough for them.
Nope. I agree. Offensive depth has been their problem all along for a long time now. They've done very little to get. They need to get themselves an analytics guy, and really start focusing on puck possession. And they give up the puck way too much in dump-ins and stuff like that. Their defenseman choice of plays that they make, even if you're going to be a dump and chase team, they put the puck in places where they're simply not going to win.
But Calgary doesn't have the speed to do it either.
No, they don't.
Like I know that Calgary Flames fans like, oh yeah, we got a really physical team, but your team is slow. Like, I'm sorry, but like you gotta what's their third line? I know they got Lucic on that third line. It's not a very speedy third line.
No,
it really isn't.
Mangiapane.
Bennett, Backlund, Mangiapane.
Yeah.
Like, you got Simone playing alongside of Monahan and Gaudreau, and he hasn't been able to get. And Levio's been playing alongside of Lindholm and Kachuk. Like, I'm sorry, but Simone and Levio are not your top 6 guys. If you think they are, they're not.
Why are you going to get Levo when you already have a speed problem on your team? I mean, it's the only thing that's kept Levo back is his speed. Like, we've talked about it over and over again, and I get slammed from people saying, well, you're an Oilers fan and you just don't like Calgary and all that crap. No, I'm calling a spade a spade. It's one of the worst organizations to assemble. Talk about a team that could use Rutherford. They could use Rutherford. Rutherford would put a team together real quick that might be able to do something for them there. He understands where you need speed on a line and all of that kind of stuff like that, because they don't have a clue.
I was thinking about it. I was talking to some people about the Muzzin. I was watching it on my Twitch stream, and I was talking about the Muzzin flipping the puck at Kachuk. And if you know who Eric Francis is, the stupid analyst guy there for Calgary, he's so biased. He's like calling Jake Muzzin a Bush League guy. And all these Calgary Flames fans are like, oh, Muzzin's a cheap, dirty player. But then Kachuk, jumps on Jack Campbell and gives him a big old knee to the back of the head. Whether it was intentional or not, Kachuk's a dirty player. And when you are a dirty player, you better expect players to do things to you and bully you and to tick you off. And Calgary Flames fans, oh my lord, were they ever crying when Muzzin flipped that puck at Kachuk. Holy crow. And then, not just that, when you say that the Calgary Flames are bad, like I remember when I made the reviewing video, when I said that this team does not look good, I had a plethora of comments saying, like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. This team is going to do good. Levio is a very good pickup for the Calgary Flames. I think he's going to do very good. He's very underrated. Well, where is he?
Yeah. No, Levo, he can only play in certain spots. He just doesn't have the speed to keep up. He's got a good shot. He's got a lot of, his hands aren't bad and stuff like that.
I think Levo is a good player. I think Levo is a very good player. But the way that the Calgary Flames have built their team, Levo just doesn't fit in.
No,
it's already too slow as it is.
Yeah,
right?
Levo should actually fire his agent unless nobody else was looking, because that was not a team that was going to give him the success he needs to get another contract. He would have been better to go to the Winnipeg or something like that.
Better to stay in Calgary. or in Vancouver. I mean, he would have been better to stay
Yeah.
in Vancouver, where
Yeah.
he was actually producing some good points there in Vancouver,
Yeah.
and probably playing some of his best hockey. Here in Calgary, maybe he can resurge himself, but the way that the Calgary Flames lineup they look like one of the worst teams in the Canadian division, forward wise, at least. Their defense is not too bad, especially if the Tanev Hadafin line continues to play good and Hadafin continues to do what he's doing and actually be what he was meant to be. Then I think the Calgary Flames can resurge themselves. But when they're going up against the Montreal Canadiens, one of the best teams in the Canadian division right now, and been able to pick apart teams that are slower than them, without a doubt, I think Montreal is going to win this one.
Yeah, well, and not only that, I just noticed Riddick is in, and well, we'll see because in the playoffs, it was some of the worst goaltending I've ever seen a playoff goaltender.
He's been pretty bad lately.
He was horrible. He was like Red Light Rasico, if you remember him. Probably not. That was before your time, but they called him Red. You're a goaltender and your nickname is Red Light. That's not a good sign, right? So he played for the Montreal Canadiens. He was brutal in the NHL level, and they kept on playing him over and over and over again. I don't know what kind of favors he was doing in that dressing room, and I don't need to, but he must have been doing something. Okay, let's go to our next game then. Kings versus the Wild. I picked the Kings to make the playoffs, and they're playing just like I thought. I really love this Kings team. What do you think?
I honestly haven't watched too many games of them, but when I have, I was watching them against the Colorado Avalanche, and honestly, this team has been doing very good. Peterson's been putting up some good numbers. I mean, quick, but honestly, it's not too bad. But they are going up against a very good team in the Minnesota Wild, where Kaprizov, Minnesota Wild has had the number of the LA Kings. They beat them the 2 out of 3 times that they have faced, and I think I'm going to choose Minnesota on this one. I think Minnesota is going to be able to pull away with the dub for tonight's game, just with how well Minnesota's been playing. Greenway, a guy that we were talking about that needed to play big time this year, he has 6 points in 7 games this year. He's been huge. Same with Joel Eriksson-Ek. And that was our biggest question when we were talking about the Minnesota Wild is can those guys like the younger guys step up big time for the Minnesota Wild and do really good, and Kaprizov and Greenway and Eriksson-Ek have been everything for the Minnesota Wild. LA, I've been loving Anthony Ciu. Anthony Ciu has been playing great for the LA Kings. Jeff Carter has kind of resurged himself as well, and Anze Kopitar doing Kopitar things as always, and still being a great player. Not a lot of people talk about Kopitar, but he is a great player for the LA Kings, and I gotta say, very, very smart rebuild by the team to not throw away Kopitar and to keep him during that rebuild because they knew that they could easily turn this thing around, and they've been able to do that very quickly.
Well, we did that video on first ballot Hall of Famers, and I'm putting Kopitar in that. I think
Kopitar has brought in the cups. I think he's won a couple Selkies too. He's done a lot of good things in his career, and he's still able to play good even when the team is at not its greatest at the age of 33 and still almost leading the league in points. It's pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, for Minnesota, Eriksson-Ek has got 4 goals and 6 points already. They can breathe a little bit there because I've always liked Eriksson-Ek. He's just trying to put it together. He looks like he could be a really, really, really good number 2 center, and hopefully for their sake he's working out that way because he's got size. He's a smart kid. He plays well defensively. It was just getting the defense to offensive transition that it seemed like he was struggling with a bit. And it seems like it's coming together this year a little bit.
It is for Minnesota. And I'm happy to see that because Minnesota just needs a year where they get themselves kind of going. And their goaltending as well there in Minnesota. Kaapo Kähkönen, a guy that a lot of people were probably worried about, but he's done very, very good. A .918 save percentage, 2-2 record. Even Cam Talbot for the games he's played, like me and you said, we had huge beliefs in Cam Talbot playing good, and especially with this defensive team there in Minnesota, I think Cam Talbot and Kaapo Kähkönen will do great just because of the fact that Minnesota is such a good team defensively, and honestly, I think they're going to continue.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, it's good. It was between these two teams who was going to get that fourth spot, and it looks like it's really a race to see who that is there. So we'll go to the Wings and the Stars. The Stars are without Sagan, Ben, and Hintz in this game. They looked pretty tired last game because they were playing short man against the Wings. If there's a place where the Wings can pull one out here, I think this might be it.
Yeah, damn, that is a huge kick in the balls there for Dallas. Like, I mean, Rope Hintz was doing very good in replacement there for Tyler Seguin and Jamie Benn. But now without those guys in the lineup, you're sort of in the blind now for the Dallas Stars, especially having that 3-0 start. I mean, that does give you a little bit of insurance. But Pavelski's been doing great, and same with Gurrianov. I don't know if this is a freebie for Detroit either, because I know Detroit has been having a couple injuries themselves.
Yeah.
With having Gagne out of the lineup and Morel, Ernie, Fabro, and Zadino as well, and Helm.
Yeah.
So they got a couple of guys out of their lineup as well. So I think I'm still going to go with Dallas in this one, just because unless like Larkin absolutely pops off tonight and Detroit pulls away with a big one. But I think if Dallas continues to stay with their defensive game and Khudobin shuts the door, I could see them. Unless they have Thomas Greiss playing in net for the Detroit Red Wings. If they have Thomas Greiss playing in the net there, it might be a low-scoring game I see between these two teams. But I see Dallas taking out the edge on this one.
Yeah, I've been kind of refreshing my goaltender app over and over again. Ottinger is going to be in for the Stars.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're going with their young kid backup tonight. And it says Greiss is projected. And he's been like just doing what Bernier did last year. He's been just going off, right?
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll have to go with Detroit in this one then. I might have to choose Detroit. It's such a hard one because you got two like the teams that are definitely feeling it right now. I think I'm gonna have to go with Detroit. If they play Greiss, I'm gonna have to go with Detroit.
Yeah, I think they might pull it out. I think they might pull it out. It's worth a bet for the juice on the Red Wings there, just to put a little bit in there to see if it happens. I mean, if the Red Wings aren't going to win too many games this year, but this seems like a prime spot, except if they're on the road, and that kind of makes me say, it's really a coin flip to me. Sharks versus the Avs. The Sharks' defense has just been absolutely porous, and
it has been. And Colorado ripped them apart last time, so I think this is an easy one. I'm going with Colorado on this one. They ripped them apart 7-3 in the last game, and I think they're going to do the exact same thing going into this one. Colorado's offense has been buzzing, and I think it's going to continue to buzz. Also, shout out to Bowen Bram, World Junior guy for Team Canada there. He's been doing really, really well with how he's stepped in there for the Colorado Avalanche's lineup there for their defense, and he's been great. Also, sucks for Frank Coons. I think he got put on the IR, I think.
Yeah.
Which sucks because I have him on my fantasy team, and I was hoping he would do very well for me, but now he's still out for a bit longer.
They cannot keep those goaltenders. That's the problem with Colorado there. If Francouz is back, Grubauer's out. If Grubauer's out, sometimes they're both out, but they're very injury prone, both goaltenders. Yeah. And it could be the reason why they don't win the cup this year. Again, that was the question mark going in, but not against the Sharks, not against Dubnyk. Dubnyk is going to be in. He hasn't really turned things around for Minnesota time. This could be a bloodbath, I would say.
I'm gonna say so.
Yeah. So the opposite of bloodbath and goals scored. We go to the next game, Ducks versus the Coyotes.
Oh,
you
Ducks versus the Coyotes.
Yeah.
Can't wait for this 1-0 game.
Yeah, I'm gonna take exactly, which it was last time for the Ducks.
I think I'm gonna choose the Ducks again.
Are you?
I think Gibson, unless Gibson does not play in the net, but if Gibson's in the net, I think I'm gonna go with
Or the Kemper.
the Anaheim Ducks.
Kemper. I mean, it's so sad that these two great goaltenders have to be on such bad teams.
It's hard to see.
Gibson's in 6 games. Gibson's got a 1.67 and a 9.48.
That's one of the best in the league.
It is. Gibson could be the first goaltender to get the Vezina and not make the playoffs. I've been saying all along, I think he's the best goaltender in the league.
Well,
for a long time now.
Unless Gibson just like puts the team on the back, and be like, boys, we're going to the playoffs. Get on my back.
Does a Dominic Hasek what he did for the Buffalo Sabres that one year?
Carries the team into the playoffs.
Which
I mean is possible. They got a decent defensive core there in Anaheim. I mean, it is possible with the way that this division is. Anaheim. I mean, if they continue to play the way that they've been playing and get these wins against Arizona, it could be very positive for the Anaheim Ducks. But I think I'm going to choose the Anaheim Ducks on this one. I think they're just a way better team than what the Arizona Coyotes are, and I think they'll pull away with the victory.
Yep, I check this out in our chat room there. Greetings and a hug, pearl of wisdom from a beautiful land called Venezuela. Wow. Wishing you are, from Venezuela. Always watch your videos. Wow, hockey fan in Venezuela shout. No, that's sweet. Thank you very much. Awesome. Okay, we got a couple more games to get through. There wasn't much to talk about that one. I mean, what do you want to talk about the offense of either one of those teams? No, not really. It's just
Ottawa, Vancouver. That's the next one up, but we have already talked about that one as well.
Yeah, we'll go to. Yeah, we did talk about Ottawa a lot. The only thing I will say about this game is that I think Mr. Melnick is probably getting pretty hot in the seat there for Matt Murray contract.
I mean, well, yeah, but I mean, you look at Ottawa's defense, and it's pretty bad there for Ottawa, their defense. And yeah, Matt Murray definitely might not be playing the best hockey right now, but I mean, that Ottawa defense is nowhere near what it should be, especially for Matt Murray trying to play his best game. And Matt Murray's no John Gibson. He's no Darcy Kemper. Matt Murray's Matt Murray. He's going to be off and on at some moments in time, and if he doesn't have a good defense in front of him, they're going to definitely struggle for sure. I think I'm going to choose Vancouver in this game, though, which kind of sucks as an Oilers fan because you kind of want to see the Vancouver Canucks lose this game tonight against Ottawa because of the fact that if we win this game tonight, we'll jump back into that playoff spot, and Vancouver won't get away from us. But, I'm going to go with Vancouver on this one.
Yeah, I got Vancouver as well. Ottawa's looked worse than I thought they would. I thought they would look better than they have. I do think that part of that is the problem. That Matt Murray looks really shaky. We talked about it before, and I think you brought up the fact that Pittsburgh had such a bad defense, and that was kind of the reason why Matt Murray had such a difficulty, or had some difficulty in Pittsburgh. And you kind of had me thinking, maybe Matt Murray can turn it around in Ottawa, but I think it's a combination. Ottawa does have bad defense, and Matt Murray is just not the guy right now to be able to save them, at all. So,
I mean, it wasn't a bad bet, and I mean, you really don't gotta worry about it until the team is able to get itself turned around. I mean, we'll have to see if Matt Murray and the team is able to turn themselves around. Maybe Matt Murray later on, maybe next year when Ottawa becomes maybe a better team, maybe you might see that performance in Matt Murray maybe take a step up. And Matt Murray's only 26 years old. Usually goalies don't play as great. I mean, Darcy Kemper didn't start playing great up until he was 28, 29, right? So a lot of goalies don't do as well until they're older. And I mean, Matt Murray's was one of those early bloomers who had a lot of success earlier on in his career, and you might see him struggle a little bit later on in his career, and you might see him bounce back up. But who knows? Maybe Matt Murray, maybe he was just a one-year wonder. Maybe he just had that one great year or 2 great years, and now he's just going to be going downhill from here.
That's what I'm afraid of. And I guess if it wasn't for that, the way he played in the last little while, he probably would almost not have been in the league. He certainly wouldn't have been getting the 5 million. What was it, $5 or $6 million contract?
It
Like,
was 6.25.
whew, man. I mean, that is rich for a guy who looked like he had confidence issues. Now you're going to give him $6 million a year and hope his confidence comes back. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Hopefully they can work with him and turn it around, because that would be a shame for Ottawa to build that team and then and then have $6 million on a cap not to pay young players to a goaltender that can't stop pucks. Oh boy. All right, let's get to the big one.
Last game,
for us. The big one, yeah, because Vegas is canceled.
Yep.
Vegas is canceled because of some COVID issues there. Our team, oh my gosh, this game scares
I got the lineup changes, and I'm not very happy with them. So Cuckoo slots back in the lineup. They take out Chris Russell. But Adam Larson's still in the lineup. Yay!
Oh my god.
Oh my god, Tippett's so goddamn stubborn. But anyways, otherwise, Nygaard and Shore are placed into the fourth line. All the forward groups are about the same. Jones and Larson move up into the top four, and Cuckoo and Barry will be alongside of each other. So about the same lineups as last game against Winnipeg. I've been chanting up and down for the RNH, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto line, and I don't know why Tippett's so stubborn with this lineup that we have going right now. It's not working. It's not working for the team. Last year when we were doing so well, RNH, Draisaitl, and Yamamoto were so fantastic, and I don't know why we have broken it apart and we have not put it back together. I think Cahoon could do very good alongside McDavid and Puljujärvi, but the loyalty between Cahoon and Draisaitl needs to stop. It needs to. It's not about being buddy-buddy on this damn team. It's about playing hockey, and we need to actually have lineup combinations that work and that actually play good defense. McDavid is giving it our best hockey right now. He is playing so good right now. He is playing at both ends of the ice. He's playing good defensively, and he's playing good offensively, but we're not getting anything from our depth nor our defense, and that needs to change, especially against the Toronto Maple Leafs, who are playing very good depth-wise, but they're also playing really well defensively. And if we're not able to play good defensive hockey tonight like we did the first game against Toronto, we're going to struggle immensely against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we got to step it up in this game.
We're both Oilers fans. I'm hating this game. I'm hating it. I'm very scared going into this one. I have no confidence in the Oilers to win this game, and I hate to say it, but I just don't. It's the same problems we've had up until now, and I'm with you with Dave Tippett. The Cahoon Draisaitl thing just isn't working. Okay, it's just not working. Put him down.
I think at some moments of time, I think when I watch Cahoon and Draisaitl, I feel like it's like I'm watching a midget game, and you feel like you got those two puck hogs, and they're passing the puck between each other. This is not under 16 hockey. It's not. I'm sorry, Cahoon, Draisaitl. I love you guys. I know you guys got like 200 points in the Germany League, and I was really excited about you guys, but they're not working alongside of each other. They're not producing, and that needs to change. We need to have the Nuge, Draisaitl, Yamamoto. That's what worked. Why don't we go back to what actually worked? Puljujärvi's doing great alongside of McDavid. Nuge has kind of just been sitting there. Nuge just kind of sitting there on that line, just kind of waiting. But if Nuge goes alongside of Draisaitl and Yamamoto, I feel like Nuge will be more of a use alongside of Draisaitl and Yamamoto, because Nuge gives that little bit more of a two-way game to that line. Draisaitl, I love him, but he's a little bit lazy at some moments in time, and they need another guy that can play good defense, and Nuge.
Yeah.
So, I'm worried about this.
So who do you put on the top line then? Cahoon?
For the top line, I'm putting Cahoon. Why not? Why not try Cahoon up on that top line alongside Puljujärvi? Why not? Cahoon's not been that bad. He just hasn't been able to get a goal. And that's the biggest problem, right? If a guy is not able to get a goal, what do? You put him alongside of another good player. You try to change up the lineups. But what Tippett's doing is not that, right? Like, we're struggling to score goals, but we're keeping the lineups the same, but changing the depth. Like we're putting in Nygaard and Shore with Archibald today, which I like that. I like how we put Nygaard back in the lineup. He's one of our better 5-on-5 guys. But Turris has been crap. Neil and Cassian has been not bad, but we need to change up the lineups. We need to change up that top six. The top six has been the same since we put Puljujärvi up there. And I hate Tippett for the fact that he's stubborn. He's a very, very stubborn man. And my new episode for the OGR, I flipped. I am not liking the way that Tippett did not call a timeout and threw out the third line where Turris and Neil and Cassian are not good on 5-on-5, but we threw them out there with the last minute 30. Why not call a timeout? Give the big boys a break. We weren't even playing Cahoon or Yamamoto at the time, or Puljujärvi. Those guys were well rested. You could have threw out a lineup like that and threw out Draisaitl with them, right? And then maybe throw McDavid for the empty net. It didn't make any sense to me. And also, why didn't Tippett call a coach's challenge on that maybe offside when either scored? Why not call a coach's challenge? That was a momentum-shifting play for the Winnipeg Jets that changed the entire game. Tippett's coaching has been very suspect for me ever since the Chicago series, and Tippett needs to smarten up. He really does. Because I'm done seeing these coaches come in and out of the Edmonton Oilers organization, and they come in, they have one good year, and then we fire them. McCullen was a great coach. Kruger was a great coach. We have not had a consistent coaching, and I like the Tippett to stay just so we had that consistent coaching on this team. But if Tippett's not going to pull the best out of this team, I don't want him in Edmonton.
Yeah, I had my question marks about Turris. The GOAT, John, he loved that move, and we talked about it, and I was like, I'm hoping, buddy, I'm hoping. But I watched him in Nashville, and the dude's not a third-line center. And to me, the problem is they don't have an actual third line, not a second line, not a second line B, an actual third line that you can put out against the best players on the ice. Yeah, I'm not rolling Turris out with the best players on the ice. No freaking way. He's a
Turris has been lazy.
He's a vanilla. He's a lazy player. He's a vanilla. That's why he left Nashville. This is a guy who they bought out with 3 or 4 years left at $6 million. You telling me a team's got to be pretty fed up with the player to buy them out with that many years left, right? And then we give him 1.6 for 2, which we can get out of, which is okay. It's fine. But the reason why we did that was because we thought that Tippett was going to be the guy that had the combination for Turris, because he used to play for Tippett.
I really liked when Joakim Nygaard was playing alongside it. We had the line of Nygaard, Turris, and Puljujärvi, and I thought that was one of our best lines, but then we took Nygaard and threw him down in the taxi squad. Yeah. It's like when players are doing good, Tippett just like eats him out of there. He's like, no, I'm not playing you. Nygaard was one of our best players. But yet then we throw back in Jujhar Khaira. Like, Khaira is not good on 5-on-5. He's terrible. We were getting caved in on our third line. Turris has a -8 right now. He has been our worst forward on this team. And that's why I got ticked off, because with a minute 30 left, we decided to throw out Turris for the last little bit. Yeah. Like, it's the biggest final minute 30 with a goal, a 1-goal lead for Winnipeg, where if we score, it could have been a tight game. We're going off to overtime, and we could have got a point out of the game. Tippett screwed us that game, and I don't care what anybody else says. I blame Tippett for that game. I thought the team played very well, but I blame Tippett for the lineups that he made for that team and put us in that situation. And I blame Tippett for that. And I don't think he did a very good job coaching.
Yeah, I don't normally blame the coach too much, and I'm not blaming the coach. There's more than just the coach here. This has been, and I've been a Holland supporter, but I didn't like the Turris move. I was uneasy about it. I was trying to convince myself that Turris was going to have
a bad bet. It wasn't a bad bet because who else would you been able to go after, really? Like, you could have signed Bradley Seahan back, but like,
but I don't know. I don't know what's available, but
like you look, there wasn't very much available that was at the price that Turris was at. Like Turris was a bargain, and that's why we took the bargain that Turris was at.
Well, he was a
And
bargain if he could play, but he's not playing with a
and he's not.
damn.
No, and he's not
He
playing.
shouldn't even be in the
And that's
lineup
the
right
big
now.
thing. We need him playing better,
Yeah.
and that's without a doubt.
Way
The
better.
whole team needs to play better, and the coaching Tippett, he needs to do something about this team. Our defense are atrocious. Larson's been trash, but yet he's skeptical about throwing Bouchard out there, and I don't know why. Why in this situation, when our team is doing bad, and it's finding it hard to find that chemistry right now as a team, it feels like, why not throw Bouchard in there? Why not? He was playing great in Europe.
Might
He
as
was doing
well.
great. Might as well throw it, give it a try.
Can't,
Bouchard's been great.
can't be worse than Larson.
He'll be better than Barry. I'd rather have Bouchard over Barry or Larson.
And that was the other thing that I had to talk about. I kept on trying to convince myself that Barry move was good. And I kept on flashbacking back to Toronto.
not good
And
on
the
the power play.
whole idea was he was going to be better when he got to the West. And I was like, okay, I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid, but in the back of my mind, I'm keep on getting these Toronto flashbacks where this guy can't do a damn thing. And he can't
the
do a
one-
damn thing.
The one play that I really hated the last game was where Winnipeg Jets had a good rush. Chris Russell he was playing. He was then very pushed. He kind of got lost in the play. He was able to escape back in the play. Russell was playing defense, but then he went and sprawled for the puck like an idiot. So that leaves Barry by himself. But then Barry's puck watching, and the guy makes a nice pass over to Ehlers, wide open net. And also, all you Oilers fans blaming Koskinen, this is not Koskinen's fault.
No.
Every goal that
No.
goes in, it's a big old juicy rebound that none of our defensemen cover up.
Yeah.
That's our defensive job.
And he's
Also, Turris
tired.
doesn't know where to play defense. He's off in La La Land.
Awful.
He goes into the corner where Bear should be going and playing defense, which Bear would be like going to play the guy, but then Turris is like coming out of nowhere. Like, Turris needs to play as a centerman. You play the center of the ice. You play the center of the ice and you cover whoever's there. You don't play too deep, because if you play too deep, then you're going to get in the way of your defenseman. But Turris always seems to get in the way of Nurse or Bear or Barry or whoever. Turris just gets in the way, and
horrible.
he's just not been very good defensively. I know he's been saying, "Oh, I've been trying to improve on my two." No,
Well, he might
You're
be
not.
trying. I'm not saying he's
You're
not
not.
trying. He's just
no,
not.
I don't think
He's
saying
just not
trying.
successful.
He's lazy.
He's not
He's
successful.
very lazy out there. The way that I watch Turris is a very lazy play. I feel like Turris, he has the potential to be a lot of a better player, but he's lazy.
Yeah.
But honestly, in this game, as an Oilers fan, I'm worried about the Toronto Maple Leafs. This Toronto team has played very well against us. We need to bring our A game. If we don't win tonight, then I don't know.
Toronto should be totally exhausted with the amount of games they've been playing, but they keep on they beat Calgary twice. I'm taking Toronto until I see a different Oilers team than this. I don't see an Oilers team that's going to make the playoffs. I don't see an Oilers team that's going to make the playoffs this year.
I don't see it either, and that's what scares me as a fan. We're not playing good. We're not good on the PK. Tippett needs to smarten up. The team needs to smarten up. We need to play better for our captain and McDavid. He's been carrying the team, and I'm gonna go with the Oilers because I believe in my heart this time around. I'm hoping, I'm believing that this team will be able to turn its game around.
Well,
But
I'm not. I'm taking.
we need
Toronto
a win
all
tonight.
day.
We need one win out of this series against Toronto because if we lose, it's not gonna go good.
I'm going to be angrily watching the game, rooting for the Edmonton Oilers, but I'm picking Toronto to win that game because I'm a capper and I got to do what's right, and that's what's right. Unfortunately, it just
I'm gonna
sucks.
go with the Oilers,
It so sucks that
unfortunately.
it's right, but it is. And okay, that's our full 42%, boys and girls. Everybody left when we started raging about the Oilers. But that's okay. I'll be back at her tomorrow, 12 to 2, same time, same place. Is tomorrow Friday? No, tomorrow's Friday.
Tomorrow's Friday.
Yeah, I think I might have Projo on tomorrow.
Awesome.
Yes, Professor Joe. So that'll be fun. Everybody loves Professor Joe. We'll be talking about the games we just talked about. And you get over to steelflyers.com right now, All Sports Network. It's one of the finest in the land. This man is part of that, Payton on the Radio, who also has a channel, coincidentally, called Payton on the Radio. You want to get over there and subscribe to that, mother. I'll tell you that. I almost said the F word there, but I didn't. You go subscribe over there to that and enjoy that fine programming. He does lives, and all the emotion you just saw about him going off ranting on the Edmonton Oilers, he does that for 2.5 hours straight while watching an Oilers game. So that's the reason why you want to go over there on Twitch and check that out, because it is pretty funny. I've watched it. Did you ever get that together? We got to go live together, man.
We should. It's always the big problem is our big delay that we have between the games, because I watch mine on Sportsnet now, so I always have like a big 30-second delay.
Yeah, we've